Dang it! We lost another one. The Volvo S60 is no more in the United States. One less beautiful, different, almost exotic these days sedans out on the streets. That's very, very unfortunate because I do think the Volvo S60 is one of the best looking sedans on the market today. And I'm not biased just because I come from Sweden. I do think Scandinavian design is actually very clean and have a clean line, and this looks like a proper sports car. If you have the S60 with the proper wheels on, the T8 for example, it looks spot on. So what we're gonna have a look at in this video is the S60, compare it to the first generation, which by the way is also still a very timeless design, and compare it to the latest generation that we have today. I want to just share my feelings and thoughts about the Volvo S60. But before we do that, let's have a look at this article from Car and Driver. What's going on here with the Volvo S60? So the Volvo S60 says farewell to the States as production ends after this month. Very, very sad news. However, it will still be sold abroad. We need to buy more sedans here. We need to keep companies want to produce and sell sedans here. I'm so tired of all these crossover SUVs. If you're gonna buy one, just take it off-road, but no one ever does that. So what's the point? You can just easy entry and exit. That's probably the biggest benefit with a crossover, I guess. But sedans just look so much better and they drive so much better than a crossover SUV. So the S60 is currently being built in Volvo's factory in Ridgeville, South Carolina. There are no plans to import the S60s into the US for 2026 model year. However, you can still buy them at the dealership as a 2025 model year. The Volvo rep also said that this about the S60's final model year here. The S60 is still being produced currently as a model year 25 vehicle and is available at Volvo retailers across the country. The current generation of the S60 was introduced in 2019. So almost 6 years now since this was introduced, and I do think it still looks really clean and really modern. Specifically, if, as I said, they updated the trim level, so now you have the dark and the light trims or something like that. I don't exactly remember the names for them, but it makes it feel that they did a facelift for it, which makes it feel modern and current as a 2025 model year. The exterior and the interior has virtually unchanged since then. They have, as I said, done a couple of tweaks to the exterior. For 2025, the lineup offers a non-hybrid model with a 247 horsepower Turbo 4, as well as a 456 horsepower plug-in hybrid model. I do believe that's that's the T8 all-wheel drive plug-in hybrid. It changed the name from Recharge to that long name. Now let's jump into Photoshop here. It's not going to be a very, very long video this, but I had to make a video on S60 because I love everything about this car. So this first generation here, this is the facelifted version that came out in 2005, I do believe. First model year was 2001 for the new S60, designed by Geza Locci. I hope I pronounce his name correctly, and his style of sketching just blows me away every time I look at his sketches. And it's hard to see when you see the sketches and then interpret that and see that the person who sketched those type of design also designed the first generation Volvo S60. But just have a look at how clean and beautiful this design is. As I said, introduced in 2001, and honestly, if I look at this car, if we were to just add some modern headlights and maybe some modern features here for the fog light down at the bottom, this would still be a modern looking car today. And I love this design. I'm probably gonna buy one pretty soon. I wanna find a manual T5. I'm not sure if they were actually sold here in the United States. This being the facelifted one, you can see that we do have the body colored bumper and the body colored plastic pieces here. These used to be black all the way up to 2003. But with this entire body color splash and facelift that we have here, creates a much more modern look for this car. Now looking at the new one here, this is the dark theme that we have here, because you can see we don't have any chrome, everything is blacked out. And have a look at how chiseled and beautiful this design is. The chamfers going around the headlights, how the headlights stick out a little bit like this with the daytime run lights, and the lines up on the hood going down here and then swooping back up here, creating a chamfer for the top piece of the headlight as well. Clear separation between the lower half and the top half of the graphics here. Just an overall beautiful design. I love these chamfers that we have on the lower section as well, and the functional intakes on the side. Beautiful wheels. Looking at the side view here, the first generation S60, still a very, very beautiful looking car, specifically in the silver. I also like these wheels, but I love more so the T5 wheels and the Volvo S60R. My dream S60 would probably be the launch spec of the Volvo S60R in flash green with the absolutely stunning Atacama interior, that deep brown sand looking interior. But here, what we have here is a clear departure from previous Volvos. Everything here got a lot more smooth and curved. We also have this shoulder line here that is very much Volvo for this generation. It bulges out like this. You can see that clearly more here in the rear view. And we have this beautiful C-pillar. I love the design of the C-pillar because it goes in and then has sort of a shelf to it here on the side. This piece, which then goes in and creates this gorgeous looking taillights that are some of my favorite taillights of all time on any car, are coming from the Volvo S60. Further down, as you can see with the facelift, everything being body colored all the way down to the ground, creating a much more sportier look than what we used to have in the pre-facelift. Now looking at the new one here, super clean, and you can clearly see the connection between these two. This is typical Volvo Scandinavian design. What I love about this is, this being the smaller sibling compared to the S90, for example, we can have some more fun with the styling here. You can see that they did that. For example, you have this shoulder line here being cut, fades out here in the middle, but still having a very sharp and crisp shoulder over the rear axle, and then coming back in a subtle way in the front end as well. We have this line in the lower section, clean line flow. See how this goes in to the bumper here in the rear end, and how this dips down and creates a very similar feel to what we have on the first generation S60s. Overall, just a stunning looking design. And these are the T8 wheels here with the yellow calipers. It doesn't look aggressive, it looks elegant and confident. And that is what I love about the S60. When it was first introduced, it was supposed to compete with the Mercedes C-Class and the BMW 3 Series. But when journalists and drivers reviewed this car, they thought it didn't live up to those type of standards when it comes to driving dynamics. And I tend to agree with that. But the thing is, this felt like a much more bigger, more luxurious car than the C-Class and the 3 Series. This was more focused on the comfort than the handling, even though it was still a very, very fun car to drive. I've owned a couple of these first generation S60s, and they're still as fun to drive today as it was the first time I sat in one. Now looking at the rear end here, these taillights, just fantastic design. Such a clean, beautiful looking integration. I love how these taillights follow the curvature of the bodywork and even the shoulder line, the curvature up here. And then we have these facelifted taillights in this case. This specific S60 has the sport package, which means that you got a spoiler up top. I would want to remove this because in the back here, in the trunk, we have a nice little lip spoiler that just goes up, similar to the nail spoiler that we have on recent Audis. Volvo had that back in 2001 on their cars. And we also had a single exhaust down here at the bottom. But overall, just looking at this angle, this is probably, the 3/4 rear view is definitely my favorite angle for the S60, even though I think it looks beautiful from every single angle. But here you can see this surface that I'm talking about, this flat surface that is the C-pillar that then goes in smoothly and creates this shelf, this little upswing right at the very top of the taillights. Absolutely stunning design. Now looking at the new one here, it feels a lot more aggressive than the first generation for sure, but you can see that we still have this nail spoiler up top here. We don't have a wing in this case, even though this is the top performance T8 by Polestar. But look at this stunning chamfer that we have going down here, housing the rear end graphics. Clean shoulder line here again with the nice flow of the lines going all over this car. This being again a little bit more stylized and a little bit more curvatures than the S90, for example, this being the smaller sibling. And last but not least, these interiors. Here you have the classic Spaceball 6-speed manual. I love this design of the gearbox. Very unique styling, and I haven't seen anyone try to do a ball like this since the introduction in 2001. But this interior is such a cozy, clean, classy interior. Gorgeous with all these angles. I love this chamfer up here that then cuts in. You have a line that goes straight across here. Above, there is this chamfer, and below you have a different type of angle across the entire dash. Love these gauges as well. Brings me back to my childhood, and the steering wheel as well, and these buttons, the font that we have here on these buttons. One of the best things about growing older is that you get these flashbacks from memories from 20, 25, 30 years ago, and I get those when I sit in older cars like this that I was used to sitting in when I was a kid, and the S60 is definitely one of these cars. I absolutely love this interior. I think it's a stunning, beautiful looking interior, and looking at the new one, it's still a very good looking interior. We have this Orrefors crystal shifter. Orrefors is like a what's it called? A glass blower or something like that in Sweden. It's a small little town in Sweden, and Volvo partnered up with them to have their shifters be made from this company in their models. And I do think it looks beautiful. It also adds some pride, Swedish, heritage into this design. You also have the Swedish flags, of course, on the seats of Volvos. But look at this. We still have a nice housing for the gauge cluster, and we have an infotainment screen. The thing about Volvos is that if you sit in any Volvo, the interiors look almost identical across the entire lineup. And I don't mind that at all. First of all, it saves money for Volvo to use the same parts in different models of their lineup, and it also creates a very strong brand identity for the brand. Love the steering wheel. Gauges are now digital, but at least it looks like they could be analog. They have an analog styling to them, and I don't really care. I'm fine with having a digital gauge like this, as long as we have the housing for it, as I'm sure you know already. I do wish we had a second array of buttons up here that were for the climate control settings. Instead, everything is located down here in the infotainment screen. When I look at the new model, it still retains that cozy Swedish Scandinavian feel in the interior. This is both the old, I actually prefer the old one. I think that has to do with nostalgic reasons. But if I were to drive through a blizzard, on a cold, dark night through the forest, I would definitely want to sit in the interior of a Volvo S60, because that would bring me back to my childhood years. And I still think, as I said, it's a beautiful looking interior. It's a shame that the S60 is no longer being sold here in the United States. I hope they will reintroduce it at some point, but I doubt it. If they already made a decision, it's going to take many years before they reconsider bringing this back to the States, unfortunately.